Okay, it is 8:30 and I will call together or to order the council meeting of October the 10th. Are there any additions to the agenda? Reeve Whitstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to add an agenda item, which would be support for Red Deer River Municipal Users Group to lobby the province for additional water storage on the Red Deer River, i.e. a dam.
Okay, so let's add that then. We'll add it under, just trying to think. Let's make it under new business somewhere. So legislative services, you think we want to put there? Okay, 7.4, support for Red Deer River users.
Yeah, it's RDR MUG.
Yeah, RMUG.
Yep, RDR MUG.
Could the Reeve give an update on the conference he just attended as well, the AUMA? Would that be possible?
So we're wondering if you would do a council and committee report on RMA.
I can sure give you an update on
AM,
RMA. I don't have my book.
Okay.
Or not RMA.
Yeah,
RM. AM.
AM.
Alberta Munis. I don't have my book here with me, but I can remember most of it. Thanks.
Okay. And I'm going to give a brief update on David Thompson Health Advisory Committee meeting I went to. And is it possible that we would get a Central Zone meeting report? So we'll make that 10.3. So 10.1 is Alberta Munis, 10.2 David Thompson, and 10.3 CRMA. And there was an addition under closed session for intergovernmental relations. And there is a addition under Agricultural Service Board. Carolyn, what was that one? That's
yes, it was the weed and pest inspector appointment.
okay. So we'll make that 5.2.2. Good thing that that person doesn't attend council meetings because there's lots of pests in this room some days.
We'll get a weed notice.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other additions? Seeing none. Councillor Christie?
If not, I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimous. Thank you. So the regular minutes from the council meeting of September 26th were pre-circulated. Are there any corrections? Seeing none. Somebody care to make a motion? Councillor Cunningham.
I move the minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to approve the September 26th regular council meeting minutes as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously as well. Thank you. All right. Our first item of business is 5.2.1, which is the Growing Kneehill 2023 event summary. Welcome, Ms. Sherlock.
Good morning, Council. Okay, and Carolyn has a presentation that she's going to pull up.
Anytime you're ready.
Okay. Is it going to come on that screen at all, or are we broken? I just have no other way to see it. So I have no idea what page you're looking at.
I need to see.
I mean, I can go blind if you want, but. Well, that's the most important part, that we see Jerry. There we go. Okay. This is the summary of the 2023 Growing Kneehill event at Horseshoe Canyon. As you can see here, this is the outline for my presentation. Please feel free to ask questions and clarifications along the way. The information in this presentation is also included in the RFD that you received in your council package. We can go to the next slide. So first of all, thank you to all of our event sponsors. Even with our tight timeline, our community services admin, who is now our economic development intern, Jenna, she was able to secure over double the sponsorship from last year. And so it was really great to see and really great to have all of these great groups involved. Next. So just a few photos from behind the scenes. We didn't have much for people in them because we were in the action, and then we're like, oh yeah, we should take some pictures of what we're doing. So we had about a week there where we had the full Ag Services and Parks staff out at Horseshoe getting stuff set up, and getting prepared. Go to the next one. So this slide here details the different components that we all worked on. Both our long table dinner contractor, Food Tourism Strategies, and everything that they were able to do for us, and then all of the things that we put our time as staff into. The contributions of having the contractor is what allowed us to be able to have this event, or both components of this event on the same day. Without that, we wouldn't have had the labor abilities to have both the long table dinner and the country market in the same day. And from the feedback we received, that was a huge bonus for people, especially those attending the long table dinner. So, next. So we'll just kind of go through. I have some photos that were taken from the event. I know there was a few who weren't able to attend, so we'll just kind of give you an idea of everything that was going on. So we did have over 700 vehicles to the canyon during the market hours. This is based off of our traffic counter data. This is what we use for Horseshoe Canyon data in general. We did set out a people counter. Unfortunately, we had a technical malfunction, so we weren't able to get that data with that. But usually when we look at traffic counter, the standard average is 2.5 per vehicle. And so that would put us up to around 1,750 for people. And that's, I believe, a very conservative number because there were lots of families in attendance and more vehicles that had more people there. So, and you can kind of see we had our county booth set up there. We had one of our sponsors, Troche Motors there. They brought a couple tractors out for people to check out. We had some of our agricultural components there, as well as we had some of the Horseshoe Canyon swag that we were able to sell at the market there. And you can kind of see this little group of kids in the bottom right corner there. That's the sand pile dig. Dinos and dollars was what we called it, and we put little toy dinosaurs and loonies throughout it, and the kids loved it. It was a huge hit. So we also had some inflatables there. One was a preschool bouncy and one was a little maze, so that was a lot of fun. And then we actually had food trucks this year, so that was a huge bonus, and everybody really liked having that. And then we had live music that kind of played the middle part of the day there as some entertainment. So go to the next slide. Yeah, so these are just some of the images of some of the different vendors that we had. yeah, we had lots of them that sold out of the products that they brought, and lots of good feedback on sales and participation, and of course we absolutely lucked out and had a beautiful day, and that I think the biggest component to anything is what our weather is, and it was perfect. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. We didn't have to deal with any of the wind, so that yeah, that really played into things. Next one, yeah, and so this one, you can kind of see that bottom picture there has the overhead view of the market, and the band they're playing. And so we had a number of vendors who were from within Kneehill as well as the surrounding area, but they were all within, I would say they're under 100-kilometer radius. So, yeah, and we did some cornhole boards that Kevin very nicely made up for the event. We used those at the dinner as well. And yeah. So like I said, we had 23 vendors. A huge portion of those were within Kneehill. We did have a few that went out, but we wanted to get that variety as well. And lots of them were, just Rosebud, right there. So we did, it took some staff a lot of time to just go through and find everybody and make those calls and pursue them to come. We did, both with our timeline and with the time of year, have some difficulties with people with previous commitments and other things going on. Being a part of Open Farm Days is great for us for the exposure, but it also, there were a couple that they were doing their own Open Farm Days events, so they were occupied with that. As well as, regular markets that they're a part of. The Drumheller Farmers Market does run on Saturdays, so those who had those commitments weren't able to attend. But we got a great variety. So just kind of going through the successes and challenges from the event. Like I said, we had a huge increase in sponsors and market vendors. A huge part of that is the staff pursuing, which then you see on the challenges side, it did take a lot of time for staff to pursue those. And from previous years' experience, I don't know that more marketing time pre the event would get us more vendors. It might, but the biggest component is having somebody that makes all those calls and follows up and says, hey, come. And that is a huge time thing. We did have additional family activities, including the inflatable units, the Dinos and Dollars sand dig, the cornhole, the band. I think those were big attractions for people, and we put out some additional flyers there before the event, letting people know that it was there and really aggressively marketing things. The food trucks in attendance, that is, I think, something that should always be a part of it. There's always people needing food there, and was a huge hit. And then we also, not just the food trucks, we had Busy Bee and High Seas both were able to serve there as well. So that was great. Like I said, we did a lot of additional marketing, really pushing the event. And then just the layout of the market space, increasing the signage from the highway, the flags, really drawing people in. We weren't just with our timeline able to obtain any volunteers for the promotion and delivery of the event. So we did that all ourselves. If more time may help with that. The short time frame for planning and delivery inhibited some things, but we were able to deliver. So The unserviced outdoor location with the uneven ground, that's kind of the nature of where we host. You know, it's a beautiful location, and like I said, we were fortunate to have the weather we did, but it does bring some challenges. And then the date, those who were already participating in Open Farm Days couldn't be a part of this, as well as we did have a number of, you know, the locals that maybe weren't able to attend because of harvest and farming and things. So, yeah. So then we can move into the long table dinner side of things. So again, we had a beautiful evening and absolutely spectacular weather. Yeah, and so this is where food tourism strategies came in, and they delivered. They designed the menu. They pursued the partners for the food. They organized the entertainment and the agenda for the evening, and really got everything all set up. So Jeff and I were there as some support with a couple of our things, but really we didn't have to do anything. So it was quite great. And had a lovely meal, and Judy, the chef, was really great to deal with. So, and we did. You can. This is the picture. You can see the silent auction table there that was made by Kevin with materials from various staff members that we had put together, and the proceeds from that went to FCSS. We raised $650 through that. So that was a really great little new feature thing to have. Next one. So our dinner numbers, we ended up with 13 local suppliers. I think the most we'd ever had in previous years was 4. So this was amazing, and another one of those things that having the contractor have the ability to pursue was hugely beneficial in that way, and able to get all of these different producers involved. So, and then when it comes to the ticket sales here on the chart, so we have our general public sales there at 64. Sponsors at 8, so they do technically still pay for that through their sponsorship. It just doesn't come through as a bought ticket, but they do still contribute funds for that. We had the 2 ASB members. We had 18 tickets that were purchased by council staff and ASB members, and then 2 special guests who were brought in, as we did have some tickets at the end there, and they were the previous owners of the canyon. So that was very nice to have them in attendance, and they did purchase some additional tickets as well to have the whole family come. So that was really great to see. So with the dinner, again, we increased our sponsorship for the event as a whole. And the massive increase in the local dinner sourcing was so awesome to see. Utilizing the third party for the dinner planning and delivery, Food Tourism Strategies did a wonderful job, and we appreciate all of the hard work that they put into things. It really, like I said, it gave us that ability to have the capacity to host both events in one day, and really maximized what our staff was able to do with the rest of the event, especially considering the timeline. Having the professional servers there, previously we'd been using seasonal staff or a few volunteers who have serving experience, but wasn't their direct position. So this was great to have people who that is their role, and they do it well. So, like I said, more local sources. And then the coordination of the rentals kind of provided us with some new opportunities. They had some different connections than what we'd used previously. And so we'll get to it when we look at the budget for the event, but they did come in under budget. So that was a great opportunity to have somebody who, you know, knows the industry and knows what's where and is able to just access some different things than we had previously. And like I said, our silent auction piece was a huge success. You know, we were hoping to do more, but with that timeline, this is what we did, and Kevin did a beautiful job on it. So, and then challenges, because we did registration and then we handed it over to the contractor. There was a bit of a mix-up as to what tables were where in the tent, and so we did have to move some people around initially, but I think we could solve that very easily. It was just a small misunderstanding. We did have the ticket sales and the fees there involved with the site that we used were higher than previous, and so that we did get feedback back on the ticket price, and so that would be something that we would look at in the future. Again, I said staff did have to aggressively pursue vendors and sponsors for participation. Food tourism strategies did take on the dinner portion for vendors, and so that helped considerably, but there was a lot of time put into that. As I mentioned, we were unable to obtain volunteers for the promotion and delivery of event. We kind of approached some groups, but just with the timeline, they just weren't able to commit. And then, as always, we're at a site that is outside, uneven ground, no services, so we bring everything in. It makes for a spectacular evening. It is a beautiful, beautiful location and completely memorable for everybody who attends, but comes with challenges. So, next slide. So our marketing, we really increased our efforts this year when it came to our marketing. Some of these we've done in previous years, some of these we expanded, some of these we tried completely new. You know, we put newspaper advertising out in the Three Hills Capital, the East Central Alberta Review, the Drumheller Mail, and the Linden Coffee Talk as well. We pursued multiple different social media strategies, including just different paid advertising, and working with the influencer Curiosity YYC to do a paid post and story. And then we did some radio advertising. We did Olds, Red Deer, and Drumheller, as well as after we had kind of done that paid advertising, I did do a small interview for the Drumheller radio station as well, just on the event the week leading up. So we put posters and flyers absolutely everywhere we possibly could, and just in the local area, all the local businesses, anywhere that would allow it, we tried to get those out. During the week leading up to the event there, we did put the sign on the highway sign, just letting people know it was happening. And then we did have posters and stuff at the canyon throughout the summer as well. And then we did do posters with the sponsors and stuff leading up to the event, and those are still going to be staying out there, just as promotion for those sponsors and of the event in general. So revenue, we, like I mentioned, the ticket sales, you can see the actual is at 12,288. So that would be some of the tickets would go from direct ticket sales to sponsorship, as those sponsors contributed and were able to take part in that as their part of their sponsorship package. And then we did have 4 tickets that were unsold. So we had more vendors at the market than previously. Last year we had 12. This year we had aimed for 20 and we hit 23. And then sponsorship, like I said, we went over double on that. So that was really great to see. Expenses, so the dinner contractor, just by utilizing their different resources and some of the partnerships that they were able to make with some of the local vendors, they were able to come in under budget. Hosting just the rest of everything that we did was a little bit higher just due to different inflation, different costs that were higher than expected, but still reasonable. We have historically not included the event marketing in that number, and it's its own part of the ASB operating budget. But just so that we are really reflective of everything that it takes to go into this event, we have included it in here so that this gives you the full picture of what it takes to host this event. So just kind of in summary of that, the budget that we were given to host this event was $57,500. The event expenses came out at $7,535, and with the revenue of $20,238, the total cost came in at $50,297. So. Just in conclusion, we had a really wonderful event. We had great turnout. We had great feedback from everybody who attended and took part and participated. The kind of future considerations here that we will be bringing this back to the Committee of the Whole for discussion on this event and future options, but just for consideration going from this, looking at what the primary objective of the event is, the desired outcomes, and alternative event options are kind of what we are looking at for the future. So, are there any questions?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions at this point in time? Councillor Forbes.
So the day of the event, I had heard from a few people that they couldn't find where it was at because it wasn't advertised. I mean, I see some of the posters had it, but some didn't. So I did have a couple of people phone me that day asking where it was held.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Cunningham?
So maybe more of a clarification, Deputy Reeve. I'm just wondering, I know this is coming back, as Ms. Sherlock mentioned, to a COW meeting. Are we wanting to have like any comments and stuff that we've heard? Are we wanting to do that today, or are we saving that for the COW meeting?
Well, I know our plan is to have a more fulsome, lengthy discussion about, but if there's specific comments related to what's being reported today, I think it's appropriate that, but if you have comments related to the future considerations aspect, then I think that's probably more appropriate for the COW meeting. Yeah, Councillor Forbes, please.
So I just would like a little clarity on the short project window and inhibited participation from sponsors, vendors, and community groups. Because in my mind, we have a whole year to prepare for this, so how does it become a short timeline for this?
So the hosting of this event wasn't actually approved until May, post-budget. And so without that, we were not able to move forward on any plans and development. And so then, yeah, that just, there's some groups and stuff that by the time we were able to approach them, they weren't able to commit any time or sponsorship to the event.
Yeah, Councillor Probst, follow-up?
Yes. So from your perspective, exactly when would be an appropriate time for you to find out so that you don't have this happen again in the future? Because if May is too late, as a council, we can bring it forth sooner.
December, January. Typically, that's when companies are looking at their budgets and what they're putting forward to get contributions to community events, so.
Mr. Gannon?
Thank you, through the chair. The late approval of the budget was one of the main considerations, and then when we went to market to find avenues to explore for the market, our plans kind of fell to re-strategize because the availability wasn't there. As far as our sponsorship group out within the community, we did go to, I believe, almost every volunteer group out there that we could think of within the community and potentially do a build-up to the event. However, because of the late request, they couldn't find any volunteers to do that. We are willing to pay for the food, the barbecue, some of the advertising, something to bring the community together. And within the future considerations and how those items will be brought forward to hopefully come to fruition for future years. But the team really had to readdress their plan as availability was a concern once the budget was approved. We're hoping going forward that we're able to put this as part of the budget package regularly. So it's not a every year approval. However, that is for council's consideration of how they would like to move forward.
Okay, so I'm assuming quite a bit of what we're talking about may come up in that cow conversation, so that's good. Any other, Councillor Cunningham, please.
So I just want to say, first of all, I was not able to make the dinner, but I was able to spend about 3 hours down at the market, and I really enjoyed it. Got to visit with a lot of people, some staff. I had a neat conversation, a fellow, I think he was from Australia. He came up and was really chatting with the peace officers about their role, because he said, I don't know what you are. Like he said, we don't have that, you know, where I'm from. So there was definitely some really great conversations. I did make 3 trips back to my car, so I was very successful at the market. So yeah, no, so it was really good. So I think, yes, Ken knows, yeah. My Ken, not that Ken, yeah. So you answered a question because I was curious. I know when we were standing there, we were talking about the counter that was at the fence line there. So that was my question. Do we know how many, we know how many vehicles, but do we know actually how much foot traffic? But of course we don't, because that, okay. So that answered that. And then one thing I wanted, I know I could see Councillor Penner kind of look, I did notice in the ad in the Three Hills Capital, it was a beautiful ad, but it was missing the location. So I did have some comments too that people were like, oh, this looks great, but I don't know where it's at. So just a little bit further to that, I noticed that the event marketing budget was it was double what was budget. I was just wondering kind of where the marketing went that made it double.
So newspaper and radio is very expensive. And so the additional advertising that we put through that, we had not planned radio. That was a new strategy. Leading up to the few weeks before, we still had a number of tickets for the dinner available, and so we put through some extra advertising to try to get those sold. So.
Okay, Councillor Cunningham, yes.
So just kind of leads me to that. Do you track the guests? Like, so the people that came to the dinner, like, do you know where they're from? Like, are they from Kneehill County? Are they from like Calgary? Like, do we have any way to know what kind of people we're bringing in from different areas? for that?
The only thing that I can look at would be their billing address. And so I can see generally where they're from. But we did have a good mix. We had some who were more local, and then we had a lot who came from the cities. We had one lady who came from Edmonton, and she, you know, just always wanted to do a long table dinner, and so she just came on her own to come experience it, so.
Any other questions? Councillor Penner?
Okay, I have no questions, just some feedback more than anything.
Absolutely.
Thank you for going to the radio station. A lot of people did hear you on that when you did, you actually spoke to the announcer in Drumheller there. I guess, and this is putting it back onto council, the sooner we can, if we choose to go ahead with this, I'd like to see that sign up at the Horseshoe Canyon immediately, as soon as we approve it, of the upcoming date, you know, so it could be months ahead of time. It really stood out on that sign when it was attached to that permanent sign there. The music at both events was phenomenal. I heard that from numerous people. It was just a nice loudness at the supper. It was very, very enjoyable. The vendors, people loved it, the variety that you were able to get there, and it touched on the ag side, all of them. They did really enjoy that. The family activities, they said, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was awesome what you guys had done there with the blow up, as well as the money and the dinosaurs in the sand. The kids really enjoyed it, and it kept them involved. They weren't just being dragged along to a farmer's market, you know what I mean? There was something for them to do. They did like, and I would actually like to thank everybody from the county staff for donating the pieces to the table, and especially Mr. Gannon for that table. It was absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure FCSS is very, very appreciative of the donation that was made to them. So thank you very much. It was a great idea.
Thank you, and I guess I did forget to note the donation that we put to FCSS, they did put towards their Young Leaders program. And so that will go back into the community for that, so.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Councillor Forbes.
I see that your tickets were $150, but when they were sold through the site, they almost were $170.
So that would be the additional fees and the GST. So we set the ticket price, we put the ticket price into Eventbrite, and then Eventbrite adds on their fees and the GST. So unfortunately, utilizing digital registration comes with a cost.
Mr. Gannon.
Thank you, through the chair. I wanted to add one additional item with regards to the conversation of ticket pricing, was that we did receive some feedback, not in the positive nature as far as ticket pricing. It's not a competitive price. It is an extreme event. It is put together well, and the cost is the cost to put on the event. However, there were certain individuals that were looking for a little bit more for what they paid for. So there's obviously the one side that really enjoyed it, thought it was great value, $1 million view, just a fantastic event. And then there's the other side of it that it was quite expensive for individuals and expected a 5-star type of rating. And then, you know, the uneven ground. So there's always the other aspect of it, and then competing with the other individuals within Farm Days and the different events out there for long tables and barbecues and so on and so on. So there's definitely a competitive thought process with regards to where we go, and we'll definitely looking forward to the conversations within the committee of the whole.
Okay, thank you for that. Good feedback. Any other comment or questions at this point? Keeping in mind that we do have a fulsome discussion coming in Committee of the Whole. If not, someone care to make a motion to receive Ms. Sherlock's report as information? Councillor Penner.
I'd like to say thank you, and I look forward to the discussion at our committee of the whole in the very close future. So I'd like to make the motion that we receive the presentation as information.
Okay, so I'll add my thanks to that as well. I know there's a lot of work here, and so appreciate it. We do have a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
And before you jump out of that chair, we'll go to 5.2.2, which is appointment of a weed and pest inspector.
Yes, so the individual covering the land care coordinator position, we have a new one here. And so with that, we will have a new appointment. And so this is just the same standard appointment that we see for our seasonal staff and for anybody new coming on to Ag Services. So just under the Weed Control Act, the Pest Control, or the Agricultural Pest Act, and the Soil Conservation Act, we do have to have a motion in council to designate these individuals as inspectors and officers. So we have now employed Jim Evans as the term land care coordinator. And so this appointment will be designating him as a provincial weed inspector, pest inspector, and soil conservation officer under the acts, and for the duration of his employment. So.
Okay, so you said that Mr. Evans has been hired as the term person? to cover
Yes, so
the-
he is
yeah.
covering the land care coordinator position while Shelby is on her mat leave.
Okay. Right. Any questions or comment? If not, we have a responsibility, so Councillor McGee.
I would like to make the motion to appoint for the term of his employment with Kneehill County, Jim Evans as Weed and Pest Inspector and Soil Conservation Officer for Kneehill County under the Alberta Weed Control and Soil Conservation and Agricultural Pest Acts.
Okay, so we have a motion that we appoint Jim Evans for the term of his employment with Kneehill County as a weed and pest inspector, soil conservation officer, under the legislation appropriate. So, any question or comment? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Sherlock. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Council.
your time and the information that you brought to us.
Oh, I did also bring, in case anybody didn't get one, you should have got them if you were at the dinner, but I did bring the long table dinner program that we had available at the market and at the dinner. So if anybody didn't get one, I do have those here, and I'll leave them for you for after.
Thank you very much. All right. We'll move on in our agenda then to 7.1, which is the Innisfail Community Economic Development Event. And Mr. Hogan, are you taking this one?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Reeve, I will. This item that's before you is an approval under policy 3.1 for a member of council to attend a economic development discussion that's taking place. As council is aware, there's certain things under policy 3.1 that you're automatically approved to attend and to expense. Things that are not on that automatic approval come back before the group for that approval, and that's why this one is here. So this event was put forward by Councillor McGee and is regarding a lunch discussion that Mr. Todd Hirsch and Mr. Justin Reimer are being brought in to talk about economic development and the economy and so forth. But with that, I'll leave it to council unless there's questions or potentially Councillor McGee.
Okay, questions, comments? Councillor McGee.
I just wanted to add that I received this invitation directly because of CAPE, so all CAPE member board directors were invited to this event. It's very timely for all of the directors to be there because we are in the process of reevaluating our board governance through a long session in November, as well then a second session later November or December, where we're going to be really readjusting our strategic planning. And so knowing the current information on what economic development looks like is going to be a great tool for us. And so I would love to be able to hear what this person has and to consider this as part of really being part of CAPE is the point.
Okay, any other question or comment? Thank you for that clarification. Okay, seeing none, Councillor Forbes.
Sorry, I'll weigh in a little bit. Because I did get a question from one of my ratepayers about this. So we looked at this and we had a discussion about the time frame. It's not an all-day thing, it's only for a couple hours, correct? So I guess my next question is what are they gonna bring to rural Alberta in this? Because sometimes I find when we attend these, it's more based for the urbans than it is for rural. So. And from their read, I couldn't really see anything that specifically deals with rural.
Go ahead.
That's why CAPE is there, is to keep the rural aspect of it. Central Alberta Economic Development Directors. There is a strong voice in that. I also am very thankful to Mayor Jean Parclay of Innisfail, who is a very good advocate for the Innisfail picture and how to keep that really inclusive. So I believe that will be part of the discussion, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Cunningham.
So I guess Councillor Phillips kind of touched on it a little bit. I did do some research too, and Todd Hirsch is director of the Energy Transition Center. And Justin Reimer is the CEO of the Emissions Reductions Program. So kind of further to that, I just wondered what information that they would be bringing that was relevant to rural Alberta that would be of benefit to us in our economic development department. And is Ms. Kester attending as well? That's my question.
Okay. Sure, do you want to provide some feedback to that?
I guess, to be honest, I can't give you a wholesome answer to that because I will learn that when I get there. But in order to know what economic development looks like in the province, we can't effectively advocate for ourselves if we don't understand the information of where we're going. And so that is the point for me, personally, as your representative of Kneehill County area, is how do I be sure to understand what the message of the province and of the area and how economic development is developing so that we can be best advocated for as well as participating to our best advantage. If we don't know what's happening around us, we're not part of it, and I don't see us building a grid future. For me, it's part of sustainability as an economy for our area and for our people who live here. There's a lot of changes. We saw the changes of, for example, the solar energy coming rapidly and us not being prepared. And I feel this is a good preventive measure. Be informed so we can be prepared for how we want to see this play out in our own community.
Thank you for that. Any further questions, discussion? Councillor Penner.
Just listening, and I fully understand what Councillor Forbes and Councillor Cunningham are saying. What are we going to get back? But if we're not in attendance, we're not going to know what's going on out there in the big world. And it's not like we're sending Councillor McGee to Toronto or anywhere. We're going to Innisfail, and just to be, and she might come out of there and say, you know, that was a waste of time or whatever. They really don't understand rural. But if we're not there, we're not going to be heard and we're not going to be informed. So any of these times when it pertains to economic development, or, I'm all for somebody being in attendance to hopefully have rural heard and maybe understood what we're going through.
Okay, Councillor Forbes.
So I guess to that comment, then why isn't CAPE going? Like, is CAPE going? Because to me, you could get the same information from your CAPE group as you can.
All CAPE directors were asked to attend so that we can contribute what we learn from here as we develop our strategic plan in the future. So the only reason why I'm looking at this is because as a CAPE director, I was invited to attend as a CAPE director. And so, it's an optional thing, and it's just because Innisfail is part of Central Alberta Economic Development, they wanted to extend that to us because they knew this was coming up and that it would affect us. And they also have been great advocacies of being in partnership as a region. And so this is their way of saying, we are interested in participating as a region. Here's our hands sent out to you to say, we want to have you included in conversations so that you're part of it. So it's not required as CAPE at all. I don't want to mislead that. There will be other CAPE members there for sure. That's not the only reason why I want to go. I also want to represent our county so that we know how to develop our economic development as well. I also wanted to, I missed saying that I also want to reiterate that the one speaker has had a lot of previous work with the, he was the assistant to the deputy minister for the Alberta region of Prairies Economic Development. So that was his role, was to worry about the prairie area, which to me says rural, in case that can help you feel more assured. And yeah, so I hope I didn't mislead you. It's not that I have to go because of CAPE. CAPE will be there. I would like to also be part of this extension of the invitation.
Okay, Councillor Forbes.
So I guess the problem I'm gonna have with that and my ratepayers is the fact that if this is based on, and I get, it's not through CAPE, but CAPE's recommending that you do this. So if they're recommending it, why are they not doing the paying of everything, I guess is the question, because my ratepayers are asking that question on money.
So I misspoke. They did not recommend it. Okay. I'm recommending it because as part of CAPE, I feel I would be a better participant if I were pretending this. So there's two reasons why I want to go. One, I want to represent us, so we are ahead of the game and understand what's coming our way. Two, as a person who's representing us on CAPE, I also want to be clear on the information as I'm part of the conversation of developing strategic planning. This information would help me serve better as a CAPE representative. I received the invitation because I'm CAPE, but CAPE did not formally say one way or the other whether I need to be there.
Okay, any other further discussion? Thank you for the clarifications, appreciate it very much. Mr. Hogan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was another question asked if Ms. Kester would be attending the event. At this point in time, we've not confirmed that, so the direct answer today is no. It is something we can look at, but as of today, we're not.
Okay, so my understanding is this event is being sponsored by the Innisfail Community Economic Development Group. They have invited CAPE to attend and the directors that work with CAPE to be there. So this is a event that's being specifically sponsored by Innisfail, but they broadened the invitation to include Central Alberta Economic Partnership. Okay, that helps. Thank you.
So just to clarify, had I not been a director, I would not have received this invitation. So it's a very opportune time to take advantage of that investment that we've placed by putting me there to be part of that regional conversation, though it's not a CAPE event. That's the benefit of membership with CAPE, is that you get to have this networking that resulted in this invitation.
Yeah. Okay, so my assumption is because it's being sponsored by Innisfail, then that the focus is going to be relatively rural. If it was Red Deer, Edmonton, or Calgary, might be a different story, but because it's Innisfail, my hope is that the primary focus will be rural, even though Innisfail is not rural as such, it's still rural as far as I'm concerned. Any other comment or question? Kevin? Did you have a comment? Mr. Gannon, I'm sorry, shouldn't use your first name in this circumstance.
No problem, through the chair. I just want to explain that our economic development portfolio, we go to a regional meeting that involves both rural and urban. And we found many opportunities with all portfolio holders that spread and work in both environments. So I just wanted to give that little bit of information that our team regularly works with both envelopes to see what opportunities may overlap and are presented so we understand different strategies in different areas of economic development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, is there any further conversation or discussion? And are we prepared? Mr. Hogan, go ahead.
Just in closing, through Mr. Chair, one thing that we will say is that further to Councillor McGee's points, one of the anticipations that we do have when we do up the budget each year is that members of council will attend events like this. Whether it's this, whether it's EOEP training, whether it's other things like that, and those costs are already built into the budget that council approves each year. So that from a financial perspective, this is already, did we anticipate this specific event? No. Do we anticipate events like this that are going to come up each year? We do. So that component is already a portion of your approved expenses as councillors.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, I'll ask one more time. Any further conversation, discussion? Councillor Christie.
Just a comment, I believe economic development is a competition, and if we're not in the race, we're not going to be there. So I'd like to make the motion to approve the attendance of Councillor McGee to the Innisfail Community Economic Development Power and Place, there goes it, disappeared, lunch, on Wednesday, October 18th, 2023.
Okay, thank you for that. You have to be fast with your vision around here. So we have a motion that says council approve the attendance of Councillor McGee to the Innisfail Community Economic Development Power Place lunch on Wednesday, October the 18th. Any further questions or comment or discussion? If not, I'm going to ask the question. I don't see any, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I have a request to take a break, so we are going to be in recess, and we'll be in recess, I'm going to say, to 9:40. So that gives you 12 minutes to Okay, it is 9:39 and 54 seconds, so we'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you for your prompt return. So the next item on our agenda is 7.2, which is the Three Hills Health Initiative Winter Wonderland Gala. And so Councillor Cunningham.
So I will declare conflict of interest on this item as I am a member of the Three Hills Health Initiative, so I will recuse myself from this item.
Okay, so let the record show that Councillor Cunningham has excused herself from this conversation and left the room. Thank you. All right, Ms. Vanderkoel, are you taking this one? Or Mr. Hogan?
I can take it, for sure. So the Three Hills Health Initiative is organizing a Winter Wonderland Gala to raise funds for the purchase of a replacement portable ultrasound system. Unfortunately, the existing system cannot be repaired due to the unavailability of necessary parts. The event is scheduled to take place on December 9th, 2023. Attached is a sponsorship grid that outlines various sponsorship opportunities for Council's consideration. Historically, the Council has been a sponsor of this event, contributing $5,000 to support its success. In cases where the chosen sponsorship level exceeds $5,000, sponsors will receive 8 complimentary banquet tickets. The Council has previously shown flexibility in handling these tickets. They have at times generously donated them back to the event to resale, contributing further to the fundraising efforts. Alternatively, council members have also attended the event alongside their spouses. Administration is requesting that council make a decision regarding the sponsorship level they wish to commit to, if any, and additionally determine their presence for handling the complimentary tickets. Financial implications, grant funding available in the Recreation, Community Arts and Culture Grant, we have $1,800 available. In the Century Farm Award, we have $3,600 available. Youth sponsorship, we have $7,400 available. And attached is the Winter Wonderland Gala sponsorship opportunities grid.
Okay, thank you for that. So you have the background information in the letter from the sponsors of this event, the Three Hills Health Initiative, where they outline cost of tickets, their request for our sponsorship. And so the question to us is, what would we like to do? So we have a request for sponsorship. We know what we've done in the past, and so what's the wishes of council? Any discussion? Councillor Forbes.
It's just more of a comment. I'm super grateful to this committee and the hospital because it is a huge heartbeat for our county. And I sure would hate for them not to have the appropriate equipment. So on that note, I would make the motion that council donate to the Three Hills Health Initiative fundraiser event in the amount of $5,000 with the funds to be used for any sponsorship level that is still available, with funds to come from the Youth Sponsorship Grant Program.
Okay, so we have a motion. Any further discussion to the motion? I don't see it.
Sorry.
Oh, Councillor Penner.
Just a quick question. Should it all come from the Youth Sponsorship Grant Program, being we got a few months left to go?
I can answer that. Historically, the only thing that would come up this time of year would be volleyball, provincials. Some schools would ask for that sponsorship, and for teams, it's only $500. So if you had 2 teams go, that would be $1,000 left that we would probably donate to take out of that account, unless there's something surprisingly that some other teams would come up with asking for sponsorship.
And in the past, we've always as necessary shuffled funds. So if we felt that there was a youth sponsorship that perhaps was noteworthy and of value to sponsor, we could also shuffle funds from either the Century Farm Award or someplace else in our budget allotment to cover those if necessary. The handy thing about the youth sponsorship, I guess, is it's enough funds in one spot to deal with it.
No, and that's fair enough. I just wanted to make sure, because I know in years gone by, we have had to turn down some applications, but not necessarily through the youth. You know, I just want to make sure we're having a discussion here if it does happen.
Yep.
And another comment is, it's just unbelievable that we are having to help finance this kind of equipment, you know, not Alberta Health or whichever department up there.
Don't get me started. I have a little comment I'll make later in my council and committee report that I added to the agenda about equipment and equipment purchases within local hospitals. So, all right, so we still have a motion in front of us to provide a sponsorship in the amount of $5,000. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, then I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. The only other, I guess, issue that we need to deal with here at this point in time would be, as a consequence of that sponsorship, there are now 8 banquet tickets available, much like the sponsorships that we provided for our long table event. And the question is, do we as council want to approve the attendance of council and their spouses to that event, or do we want to donate them back, or what would we like to do? So we have a number of options. Councillor Christie.
I've done a lot of fundraising and I get a little frustrated when we start giving tickets out. So I'd really like to donate them back and let them resell them. I'd like to see council go, but I can pay my way, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to take that then as a motion from Councillor Christie.
That way I don't have to read it while it's moving around.
That council donate the complimentary tickets back to the organization to resell. Councillor Penner.
I like the idea and I love handing them back, and I do not need a free ticket, but I would like to see somebody in that seat. And that's what I did years ago, you know, if the event doesn't sell out, that you make money off me being in that seat on all the other silent auctions or whatever they bring forward for the event. So I stepped forward, the last one they had a few years back, to put a body in that seat to make more money. So you do make money, but as long as, if it's not sold out, I would like that opportunity. If it's sold out while giving them back, no problem. But if it hasn't, I would like to give them to somebody to put a seat, somebody in that seat.
Put somebody's seat in the seat? Okay, so if we make the motion as it's designated there, the council donate any tickets received as a result of the sponsorship back to the event for resale, could we maybe ask administration to just let them know that if they have, if they're not able to sell those tickets as council, we would like to know that, and then a number of us perhaps would then attend the event to help and buy our own tickets, but we'll help to fill those seats. So that's just direction.
For sure, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Any further question or comment? So we do have a motion, we donate them back. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, so I'll ask the question. All those in favor? And that is also carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So we can invite Councillor Cunningham to rejoin us. So maybe we'll just take a 1-minute recess while we do that. Okay, now that Councillor Cunningham has rejoined us, I'll call the meeting back to order. And we'll move on in our agenda to 7.3, which is RCMP meeting at the RMA. And Mr. Hogan, I assume you're taking this, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request that we normally receive regarding whether are from different entities who are going to be attending the Rural Municipalities of Alberta Conference and whether or not we'd like to meet with them. So we have received this request from the RCMP, specifically that would be from K Division. So usually that's the command staff, that's the Alberta Solicitor General, other entities like that that are in the room. One of the things with this particular invite, we were given very short notice on this, and it didn't work out with the council timing. So the date by which we were asked to have a response has already passed. So we've got this here in front of you. So we can still attempt to get a meeting, but there's no guarantee that that is actually going to happen. So that what we've done internally is we're looking at calendarizing this next year, talking more closely with with our local detachment to bring this ahead to you earlier so that we're not where we are today. At any rate, if there is a desire by council to meet with K Division, we can attempt to make that happen. There's no guarantee that it will happen. If there's nothing specific that we want to meet with them about, then it's a moot point, and we can move on. So if there is a desire to meet, like all of these other requests, there would be the question around what meeting topics should we bring up that would specifically be addressed to the SolGen or K Division, and that can't be dealt with in conjunction with our local detachment.
Okay. Any comment, question? Councillor Cunningham, please.
Brought my tap shoes today. So you kind of clarified that for me. So my question was, when do we have to reply? But you said we didn't receive the invitation. It's passed. Okay, so that's helpful. So is this like the normal traditional 15-minute meetings that we are granted with ministers? So it's not a long time frame?
Through Mr. Chair, it's essentially exactly that.
Go ahead, Councillor Cunningham.
So this may get a little bit emotional for me, but I just, we have had an absolute increase in crime in this area in the last few weeks, even since I've done my last update with Police Advisory. This past weekend was especially tough, not only on our local detachment, but also on our fire departments. And I'm sure there'll be more information coming forward in the Capitol and all that in the next little while. So I wholeheartedly would like to meet with the RCMP. Yes, I do sit on the police advisory, so I guess I can come at it with, we've had conversations about some of the limitations and what they can and can't do. So what would be my questions to them? One of them would be, what is the plan to combat shortages in RCMP in rural Alberta? We're finding that less people are going into the RCMP, and I know in our local detachment here in Three Hills, they had to wait quite a while to fill a position. Sergeant Day has been advocating for, I think it's over 3 years since the time he's been here, to get a corporal, which I think may finally be coming to fruition. But what I see is that we just need to be advocates for our local detachments and really because like it is the Alberta division, so just really let them know that we are behind what our people are doing, but there's going to be burnout. There is going to be, in fact, I do know there has been people that have left the RCMP because of certain things like shortages and that. I think it's important for them to know that we're engaged and not to forget about rural Alberta, because as we know, in all aspects that we deal with, rural Alberta can be very easily forgotten. So unfortunately with this, I know you guys got it late, we got it late on Friday. I am very confident that I could meet with Sergeant Day before the RMA and have even a more wholesome list of things to discuss. But the 15 minutes, I think would be easy. I know I met with one of my ratepayers on Saturday in regards to some road concerns that they had. While I was meeting with them, they explained to me that they had 2 break-ins over the last little while, ones that I wasn't aware of. So I just think addressing real crime is huge right now, and I just really think there's a place for us at the table to advocate for rural policing in Alberta.
Okay, thank you for that. So I guess there is an expressed desire that if it was possible, and if council is willing to endorse that, we would then request a meeting. So I would need a motion then that we go forward with a request, and then based on availability, we would determine whether we get a meeting or not. So, Councillor Cunningham, am I anticipating then a motion from you that would say that we request a meeting with the RCMP then? Okay. So, that council request respond with a yes to the invitation. At the RMA convention. Yeah. So that would be then, does that meet your, okay? So Councillor Cunningham has made the motion that we request a meeting with the RCMP during the RMA convention. Any further discussion, conversation? And the expectation is we will flesh out
After.
what we want to talk to them about. But I think based on what Councillor Cunningham said, it's important to let them know we are engaged. We want to be an advocate for our local division, and we want to ask the question, what is the plan to combat the shortage of officers in rural Alberta? Any further discussion? Councillor Christie.
And remembering that we have 5 divisions in our county and they're all short.
Okay, thank you. Any further conversation? Discussion? Seeing none, are you prepared for the question? All those in favor of the motion? And that is carried unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Chair, as a result of that, for the follow-up actions, administration will make that request through to the RCMP. Following up on Councillor Christie's comment as well, we'll have some of our staff engage with the staff sergeants from all the departments to start putting an information package together.
Super, thank you. All right. We are now at 7.4. So Armugh, and Dave Whitstock, I assume you're going to be presenting this one?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I received this email on Saturday, so therefore that's why it's being brought up now. And I did manage to send the email to Mr. Hogan this morning. Obviously, I didn't want to bug him on the weekend, or I'll use that as an excuse anyway. And it came from our executive director, Rudy Friesen, and through our urban chair, Bill Windsor, our rural chair, John Ireland. Our RDR MUG wants support from our municipality to lobby the province for additional on-stream water storage on the Red Deer River. Okay, that tells me it's a dam. Back in January, I do believe it was January, Nate Horner had come to our AGM. Maybe it wasn't January. Regardless of, he came to our AGM and he was very supportive of a system where there is on-stream storage on the Red Deer. We've noticed over the past few years with the droughts and what have you that the Red Deer River is managed quite well by Dixon Dam. The unfortunate part is if you have a second-year drought or a third-year drought, it doesn't do the trick. So there is interest from Mr. Horner, Minister Horner, and his suggestion to the group was, and I guess this was done at the Alberta Munis. Somebody must have got, I didn't see Mr. Horner there. I did spend some time with some other ministers, but I didn't notice Mr. Horner there. But regardless of, he seems to think that now would be a good time to petition the province to get that on-stream storage. So to ultimately deal with our ag minister, RJ Segerson, and a number of other ministers, and hopefully get something started here. So what I'm looking for is support from our council so that I can go to an RMUG meeting, or I can translate back to the RMUG meetings that we are in support of a dam someplace on the Red Deer River. Currently, they're looking in that Nevis area, but that's pie in the sky right now. Nobody knows where it's going to be. They do have plans, but the plans were, you know, same as any other government plan, 20 years down into the future. So ultimately, that's what I'm looking for. I guess the motion should probably read that Kneehill County support RDR MUG to help lobby the province for additional on-stream water storage on the Red Deer River. And Mr. Hogan, I will let you fine-tune that motion if that is what you need to do. And if there's any questions, by all means, let me try to answer them for you.
Thank you, Reeve. Any questions? So the motion currently reads that council provides support to the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group. It's changing, so just hang on.
No problem. I muted myself because I imagine you guys are getting the background feedback from my site here.
Okay, we're gonna have to get this motion in order because council's getting unruly.
Get out the gavel pretty soon.
I have to, yeah, where's that hammer? Order in the court. Okay, so.
Should be right above your computer or your computer there, Ken.
Do I bang it on the counter or on the counselor? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Depends if you want to get up or not.
If you can't have a little fun, what can you do? Okay, so the motion reads that council provides support to the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group undertaking an immediate and sustained lobby effort for the study of additional on-stream storage on the Red Deer River.
That sounds good to me. I'm willing to make that motion.
Good, because we already said you were going to do that.
All righty.
Thank you, Reeve. Any further question or comment? I think the logic behind what they're asking is good logic. Okay, if there's no further comment or discussion, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor of the motion? And that is carried unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will get a hold of the executive director and give him the heads up that council has approved the motion.
Okay, so it'd be appropriate, I guess, administration will look after this, like we should send them a letter to that effect as well.
Through Mr. Chair, administration will take care of that portion of it.
All right, thank you. So we are now at 9.1, which is council and committee reports. And if you wouldn't mind, Reeve, just giving us a brief overview of the Alberta Munis Convention that you attended.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It was 3 days of fun. The common issues, there are so many common issues between RMA and Alberta Munis. There's the lack of funding, the infrastructure deficits, just the timing of stuff. We have two organizations that are basically municipalities, and we're both facing the same issues. And I'm not saying it just in Alberta. I'm pretty sure even at FCM, I mean, that is one of the, or a couple of the issues that are always common with municipalities. I sat through about an hour and a half of the resolution sessions. A lot of them were dealing with affordable housing and support for low-income households, individuals. And just a note, there was a resolution that was dealing with rent controls. It was put forward by the city of Edmonton, and they were looking to somehow make housing more affordable by being able to control rent increases. There's 570 delegates there. That motion was lost by 4 votes.
Wow.
So you kind of wonder, did they get what they were looking for? Because 4 votes, when you're looking at that many delegates, you don't know if it's a positive or a negative. But in this case, it was a negative, so they can't go forward with it. One of the resolutions also dealt with raising the LGFF funding from the 722 million to 1.75 billion. And of course, I was accepted. It's kind of I don't want to call it disjointed, maybe I don't know what word to use, convoluted, as there's different levels of municipal sizes involved in Alberta munis. I mean, there's cities that are over 500,000. Like, we're looking to elect directors. So you have directors for cities over 500,000, cities under 500,000, towns. I'm not exactly sure if there's a split in the towns. There probably is. And then you got villages, which are south, east, and west. I don't know where the boundaries are. I don't know if anybody actually knows where the boundaries are. But all these directors are voted on inside during the meeting. With our organization, when we do our directors for zone 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, we always pick another spot, and the ones that are involved are in that room, and it just makes it. I think our organization does a better job, because here you're sitting with, I don't know how many people, 1,000, maybe 1,300 people are sitting there, but there's only the ability of a few to vote for these director positions. And for instance, Villages South, there was only 23 people that actually voted on that for that director in total. So, everybody's sitting there, and it does get a little ruckusy because, well, you're not involved in participation there. The new president of the organization, Alberta Municipalities, was, I think he was the mayor is the mayor of Wetaskiwin, Tyler Gannon. Sorry, I probably butchered his name, but regardless of, that will be the one that's taking over from, trying to remember, previous president anyway. She was from St. Albert. It was a huge trade show. Not like our trade shows. It was a lot of little stuff. Didn't see any graders, didn't see any fire trucks, didn't see any of the big equipment. But there was a lot of municipal advocacy groups, meters, lights, all sorts of stuff. And I guess what I would like to do is publicly thank the town of Three Hills for inviting me to the Alberta Munis Conference. It was very enjoyable. It was great to be able to sit with that group at all the different breakout sessions and during the meeting. And I did have to skip out on the resolutions. I was not able to attend the full 2.5 hours, but I did make it for about an hour and a half. But again, thank you to the town of Three Hills for inviting me. So if there's any questions, by all means, you can try to ask me, and I'll see if I can remember.
Okay, thank you, Reeve Whitstock. Any questions on that report? Councillor Cunningham.
No questions, Reeve Woodstock, but it's very interesting because I always wondered the difference between our convention and their convention. So thanks for shedding some light on that. It's quite interesting to see the differences.
Us rural municipalities like our steel and iron.
I guess a little bit to add to it, there was quite a few members from the RMA there, like Reeves and stuff that I ran into. I did have the opportunity to sit down with Director of Zone 1 RMA, Jason Schneider. We had the ability to sit there and talk probably for an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minutes. Also the president of our association, Paul McLaughlin, got to sit there and talk with him for a while because as they're in attendance to the convention, they are not scheduled to speak. So they're not running around with their heads cut off trying to catch up to where they're going next. So it was an awesome opportunity to sit down with RMA members at that because they had time to talk. And we had some pretty fruitful discussions coming out of our discussions. And I appreciated that part.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, if there are no further comments for the Reeve, we will go on to 9.2, which is my summary of a David Thompson Health Advisory Council meeting that I attended last week on Thursday evening. Was in Red Deer at the South Campus of the Red Deer Regional Hospital. And it's the first time I've ever gone. I was invited and so chose to attend. So I think highlights for me are, one of the things I was very interested to hear is that AHS has focused on getting ambulances out of the Red Deer Regional Hospital. And they're working on getting faster returns of EMS to their home communities after patient delivery in Red Deer. They currently are achieving about a 50% return after 40 minutes, and the 90 percentile is 75 minutes. So they are doing better than they have. It used to be extended lengths of time. So the other thing is in the communities around the David Thompson Health region, there are many that are experiencing either emergency room or hospital closures due to staffing problems and shortages mainly. And oftentimes it's nurses. So we need to be aware of that and be very thankful. And AHS informed us at that meeting that the Red Deer Regional Hospital emergency room is currently fully staffed. And so they are managing and operating at maximum capacity, which is very good news. They are also working hard towards streamlining the process for internationally trained nurses so that we get more nurses working here in Alberta. We did talk a little bit earlier about equipment purchases, and there were numerous other municipal representatives in the room or people who represent hospital boards of different types who are community-based and who are fundraising, and everybody is fundraising for essential equipment in their hospitals. It's absolute insanity, but that's what's happening. The funding is not being provided for that equipment at a level that's needed, and so local people are fundraising for them. The other thing that was very interesting to me is, although that equipment is now available, like in places like Drumheller and Stettler or other places like that, they're not being used to their maximum capacity. And so they might have a CT or some other piece of machinery sitting there that could be being used more than it is, but they say we have X number of hours and that's all we're allowing. And so that piece of equipment then sits unused for the remainder of the time, which is absolute crazy. But that's what happens at Red Deer too. I mean, at the Red Deer Hospital, in their imaging and so on, they only allowed so many hours with technicians, and that's all they use them for, so. I did discuss our issues with our clinic and the subsidization that's needed to maintain clinics in our community. And that also was echoed by just about everybody else that was there. And AHS feels it's not their problem, that they are compensating doctors at appropriate levels, and that if you can't maintain a viable clinic based on what they're currently paying, somebody else's problem. And so when I expressed the amount of subsidization that we currently are putting into the clinic here, they really didn't have a lot of sympathy. So doesn't sound like ourselves or any of the other communities are going to have much luck going forward in terms of pushing that agenda. So it's going to be up to us to find a solution. And they said, guess what? We're in respiratory infection season. And so currently there are at that point in time, there were 800 plus COVID patients in hospital with 23 individuals in ICUs in Alberta. So there you have it. And the COVID vaccine for the booster this year is available October the 16th. Coming soon to a pharmacy near you. And I didn't ask for permission to go, I just chose to go because I felt it'd be worthwhile. And I think overall I was happy that I went. I was very frustrated because it's a committee of 15 individuals, 4 of which chose to be in the room, and the rest of them attended via Zoom. And you need to be thankful for the technology we have in this room, because we can actually have a Zoom meeting and have it work, whereas it was very, very poor in terms of being able to hear and understand what was happening. And because I'm hearing challenged, and it was awkward, but still I felt it was worthwhile being there. And there was people from Stettler and Starland and Sylvan Lake, all over the place, Clearwater, you name it. There was individuals, municipal representatives from those communities there. So there was more visitors than there were committee by a long shot. So anyway, this is our current world we live in. The reality is everybody wants to do things remotely, unfortunately. Any questions? Councillor Cunningham.
Not necessarily a question, but just I want to thank you for taking the initiative to attend that council meeting, because it's very valuable information. When I read the part about, more the process to allow for more internationally trained nurses to get accredited to work in Alberta, I think it's awesome. It's just interesting. I had a conversation with a couple of nurses recently when they very much appreciate that, but they also would like to see that to the locally trained nurses as well.
Yes.
They would like to see more support for them as well. And I think as a collective, if you get both going, then hopefully we can have, staffing up to the way it's supposed to be, so.
Okay, thank you. Reeve Woodstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Mr. Hogan. Does the Deputy Reeve need authorization to be reimbursed for attending this meeting? Or is that part of the our policy?
I guess my response to that, Reeve, thank you for asking the question, is I am not anticipating any remuneration for attending that meeting. So I don't think it's necessary that we do that. So thank you.
Well, you came back with some important information, and I believe that is what our job is, but it is totally up to you. So I will leave that in your capable hands, Deputy Reeve King.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hogan and then Councillor McGee.
Through Mr. Chair, in answer to the Reeves question, I think the very technical answer would be yes. Under that policy 3.1, which is to receive remuneration should it be requested. That does, I think, tie into a discussion that was brought before, was not brought before council, but was outlined to council a few months back around, there are some gray areas in that policy, and it's the normal direction of, or the normal process of council to renew that policy at the end of your term. But like I've said previously, it might be beneficial to bring that policy back for some discussion, just because we do have a number of things like this occurring, as well as the amount of citizen engagement that you've undertaken as a council under your existing strategic plan has changed the environment under which that policy has been created. So it might be worthwhile for some council discussion to bring that particular one back.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor McGee.
Thank you. I think that's a great recommendation. I'm personally, I like having the formalities of things in black and white, and therefore, whether Deputy Reeve King agrees or not, I am making the motion to approve Deputy King's attendance to the David Thompson Health Advisory Council meeting of October 5th and any future advisory council meeting minutes, so long as he is our representative to the doctor's R&R.
That could be short-lived. Councillor Penner, you have a comment.
I do have a comment. I agree 100%. Anytime we can represent ourselves and get more information back to our community, and you do a report, it should be covered. And you sit on a board that is pertaining to this area. So I'm 100% behind you submitting for reimbursement.
Councillor McGee.
I wanted to add a bit of a discussion item to this conversation too, in that I think it's really interesting that we've always identified the health pieces as a separate entity and don't have a lot of time with it, yet we have RCMP reporting to us, we have RCMP inviting us at RMA, we have various organizations similar to also participate in a more robust way. And I think if they're going to be relying on us to make clinics sustainable, then they need to be more robustly involved in municipal government than they are. And I think this is something to bring forward to RMA as well as a thing, but we need to be more actively part of this in the same way that we do. I'm using the RCMP example. We have a great relationship with them and we are very engaged with them. It's time we are here as well.
So you're referring specifically to AHS in that case?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other comment or discussion? I know we have time. It's always fun to watch typing when you're under pressure, eh?
Trying to discuss.
Reeve Whitstock, you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. I totally agree with Councillor McGee. I think municipalities are not specifically involved in healthcare, yet we are getting entangled in healthcare because we are looking after our residents because AHS isn't. And when we look at the, the funding for the ultrasound machine in the Three Hills Hospital, okay, so you've got a piece of equipment you can no longer get parts for, but AHS says what? You don't need the parts or you don't need the equipment. Like, I think it would be great to get a meeting with a health minister someplace along the line and say, these are not the responsibilities of municipalities. These are the responsibilities of the provincial government, AHS. If you don't want these hospitals in the rural areas, keep taking away their equipment, keep taking away their doctors, and you get your wish. You will not end up having to fund anything in the rural areas of Alberta. But that is where our residents live. I think it's really unfortunate that we are voluntarily stepping in where AHS is specifically backing out. So it's a comment, and I've felt this way for a number of years, but regardless of, it's not getting any better.
Thank you, Reeve, for that comment. I think that all of us would agree that municipalities have stepped up only because we don't want to see a reduction in service in our areas. And, when you think about, the tax incentive that we have provided to the medical clinic, you think about the favorable rent that we have allowed, and you think about our contribution to the Dr. R&R, we're probably close to $150,000 in contribution towards maintenance of doctors and that medical facility here in Three Hills for Kneehill County alone, never mind our partner municipalities. So that was the point I tried to make with AHS, and they basically turned a very, very deaf ear to that, and their attitude was, that's the way it is. And when the conversation came up about medical equipment, same kind of thing. It was, thank you very much, sort of thing. Appreciate your contribution. So anyway, we have a motion in front of us that council approve attendance of Deputy Reeve King to the David Thompson Health Advisory Council meeting that he attended, and any future meetings he attends as chairman of the Kneehill Medical Services Retention and Recruitment Task Force. It says committee, but anyway, that's the motion. Any further discussion? If not, I'm going to ask, Councillor McGee, I saw that.
I just want to thank administration for the verbiage that I did not name the Kneehill Medical Services Retention Recruitment Task Force correctly, and for them to interpret it as what I intended. So yes, I'd love the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comment? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, one more council and committee report, 9.3, and that is the Central Region RMA meeting that was held at Lacombe on Friday. And thank you for those who attended, and I extend my apologies for not being able to be there. So, who would like to tackle it first? Okay, Councillor Cunningham.
So just a couple takeaways for me. There was a representative from Ducks Unlimited that provided a good presentation, so that was quite interesting. Can give anybody around the table more information if they wish. There was a legal component, I believe, Mr. Hogan, was it Brownlee that came? I always forget which company.
Farmer.
Oh, right.
The farmer.
Mirth Farmer.
Reynolds Smith Richard Farmer.
Yeah, yeah. So that was interesting. Their focus was on the duty to consult, and so that was a very interesting topic as well. Again, anybody that wants information, let us know. And just as always, it's a great opportunity to chat with colleagues and and different people from around our district. So yeah, it was a really good meeting as usual.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else care to contribute to that conversation? Councillor Forbes.
All right, I'll chime in with a couple of things. Currently, or they're in the works of doing, the AUC requires utility projects applications to develop a PIP, which is a participant involvement program that includes Indigenous groups if there is a potential impact to Aboriginal or treaty rights when it comes to these facilities that they're putting in. The wetlands, I learned, are the kidneys of our land. And so we have lost 70% of our wetlands in this province. So if our kidneys are being strained, because these are the filters for our bodies of water that we have that are just sitting. So I think that's a super important reminder to us that it may look good to turn them back into farmland, but at the end of the day, you get a little soggy in some spots. The other thing I really liked was to tell our story of rural municipal impacts to the quasi-judicial approval process. Because a lot of times I find the AUC, me personally, make it extremely hard for who we are to log in, become members. I've tried, and I put in everything, wrote it all down, went to go log in and could not. So they make it a little difficult for people to do. Some people will get in there a little quicker than others, but yeah. I also like the things that they're putting forth to lobby the government of Alberta for, that really when you're a municipality, you think you're the only one in it, and you find out when you go to this, you're not. There are other people that have the exact same concerns. And there are many voices in that numbers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else attending? Councillor Christie.
I was talking to a councillor from Lacombe where they were looking at their restricted covenants from some parkland that they were donated, and were quizzing me about Horseshoe Canyon on our restricted covenants. Mike and I had talked to them a little bit. But I don't know if they have anything in place, but they were looking at how to do it and decide what they're gonna do with that 20-acre park, which is also the 5th property they've been donated in the last 5 years.
Oh, wow.
That's the biggest one.
Okay, any questions for our attendees? Councillor Forbes, yes.
I just would also like to mention this because the president of RMA basically said, you can't do whatever you want on our land or municipalities wouldn't exist. So just to remind people that you can't, even though you think you can, we wouldn't have a planning department if you could do willy-nilly whatever you wanted.
One of the things I was most unhappy about having to miss was the Ducks Unlimited presentation. I fully support the direction that they're taking, and I think we're being relatively short-sighted currently in our approach to agriculture as far as wetlands are concerned. And it's one of the things that I probably mourn the loss of more than anything else in our desire to be straight-line farmers and have convenience. We're giving up an immensely valuable resource in our wetlands, in our tree bluffs, and all those little things that are so important to wildlife and pollinators and agriculture and environment as a whole. So anyway, I appreciate the comments. So Councillor Cunningham?
So just further to that, Deputy Reeve, the fellow with Ducks Unlimited did provide us with his phone number and email address, and I'm very confident that if we were to reach out, you would be able to access the slides that he did that day.
Yeah. They have a program for municipalities as well, do they not?
They'll work with municipalities on their policy and bylaws as well to help protect those areas.
Okay, thank you. I think that's probably a topic of conversation that we could have at the Ag Service Board level around whether there's any interest here within Kneehill County about wetland preservation or those kind of things. So, okay, excellent reports. Any further questions or comments? If not, I would be looking for a motion to receive the council and committee reports as presented. Councillor Cunningham.
I move council accepts for information the council and committee report as presented.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept for information the council and committee reports as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 10, which is council follow-up action list. And are there any questions or comments related to that? Mr. Hogan, go ahead.
Just a note for council on the report, the 3 of the last 4 motions from the September 26 meeting, they're not marked as completed on there, but since this was created, those have been completed. So of the council provides support for Wheatland County's proposed RMA resolution. Of course, we did that at the Central Zone meeting, so that one's completed as of Friday. Likely there'll be a secondary component at the RMA convention once that goes forward, but for all intents and purposes, that one's done. The council directed administration to submit an application for Kneehill County to be a host municipality for the 2024 municipal internship program. That also has been completed. We won't know the outcome of that until probably early December, but the application itself has been completed, and that we confirm total funding in the amount of $100,000 for the Acme School as per that council motion. That also essentially that's been completed. I'd have to double check if the letter's been signed.
Letter's waiting to be signed.
Yes, okay. So the letter is, so maybe that's not quite completed yet. The letter has been drafted. We're just waiting for signature on that, but the group has been informed informally. So the letter's just the formal component, but the other awareness has already been sent.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? All right. Then if there's no further discussion, you know what you need to do, which is we need a motion. Councillor Penner.
I'd make the motion that council receive for information the council follow-up action list as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the follow-up action list as presented with the clarifications provided with Mr. Hogan. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, the next items on our agenda relate to closed session. So we have 3 items in closed session. 11.1, which is intergovernmental relations under section 21. 11.2, third-party business interests under section 16. And 11.3, which is another intergovernmental relations under section 21. Would somebody care to make a motion? Councillor Christie?
So moved.
So we have a motion to go into closed session. All those in favor? And that is also carried unanimously. Thank you. Are we in closed session, Carolyn?